Hello again, this is video number 2 about CBT and talking therapies generally. Today I'm going to talk about the forerunner of CBT, because I thought a good place to start talking about CBT is what preceded it and how it came about. So one of the tenets of CBT is that it's not an event that upsets us, but it's our interpretation of it. So that's quite an important understanding. So it's not the event, but it's the interpretation. So it's how we perceive what happens to us rather than what has happened. And with quite a few exceptions, that's quite often the case. So we react accordingly to how we perceive something rather than how something necessarily is. And we perceive things according to our histories, our sociology, our biology, and so we are reception animals, if you like, and we react according to the inputs and the stimulus that is given to us. At the time when CBT was founded, the founder of CBT, Beck, was working with someone called Albert Ellis, who had a version of CBT. I mean, Ellis wouldn't have called it that, but it was called Rational Emotive Behavioural Therapy, which is REBT. And both Ellis and Beck, who were the forerunners of CBT and the founders of CBT, both Ellis and Beck were very prominent in creating modern day CBT based on this tenet that it's not the event that upsets us, but it's our interpretation of it. Now, one of the things in rational emotive behavioural therapy, or REBT, which is a CBT forerunner, one of the things is the way to control emotions and how to decatastrophize certain emotions that occur, and these emotions would be undesirable ones. And Ellis came up with a very simple solution. So basically an ABC model, as you can see here. Hopefully it's the right way around for the video. So the ABC model means activating event, which is the A, belief, which is the B, and consequence, which is the C. So activating event, belief, consequence, A, B, C. And what Ellis said is that you need an activating event to cause a consequence, and the consequence will be a certain emotion. So let's take an example to illustrate this model. So activating event could be someone cutting you up on the road. So you're driving along on the road and someone comes in front of you too quickly, or something bad happens and you think that the person in front is an idiot driver. I mean, it happens to all of us, happens all the time, very common experience. And the consequence of that event, of the activating of that event, the consequence is anger. So you are in a road situation, you believe that your space has been violated in some way, and the consequence in you is anger or frustration or sadness of some kind. In other words, you feel somewhat emotional or emotionally derailed. This is because your belief is, in this instance, you should not be cut up on the road. So someone cuts you up on the road, the consequence is anger, so your belief must be that that shouldn't happen. In other words, you've been cut up on the road, consequence is anger, and you believe it shouldn't happen. So what Ellis said is that if you change your belief, then the consequence won't be anger. Now this is very important, and it's very important as a forerunner for CBT, and on which the whole basis of CBT is built. This model is extremely important. Activating event, an undesirable event. Belief, this shall not happen. And consequence is anger or sadness or rage or whatever it is. It's the basis of road rage. So if you look at a terrible event of road rage, you've got the activating event, which is, say, someone cutting you up on the road, someone gets out, starts to remonstrate with the person, and because the belief is they shouldn't have done that. And so the consequence is anger, or in the case of road rage, it can be even worse, obviously. So it could have catastrophic consequences. So what Ellis said is that if you change your belief, then you won't have anger or sadness. And this model can apply to anything in life. It can apply to so many different situations. There's always an activating event which will cause an undesirable emotion, and there's always a consequence which is the undesirable emotion. So it could be panic attacks, supermarket. So panic attack in supermarket is the activating event. The consequence is the panic attack. The belief is I shouldn't feel bad in supermarkets. So if you look at panic attack, basically it's someone feeling unstable in a supermarket, or someone feeling unstable somewhere out in society, or someone feeling unstable when they're driving. And it brings on panic and anxiety. So that's the activating event. The consequence is panic and anxiety. If you change your belief into I'd rather not feel unstable, but sometimes I do feel unstable, then that helps combat the consequence, because you come to believe a different thing. So instead of I should not feel unstable, you come to believe I might feel unstable sometimes, but I'm able to accept it. We'll talk about acceptance on a later video, and how that channels into mindfulness and CBT itself, but that's for another video. So going back to this model, activating event, belief, consequence. The activating event can be anything that causes us the consequence of an undesirable emotion. So if we change our belief, it's different. And Ellis himself suggested ways in which to change our beliefs. He says that we should look at musts, oughts, and shoulds. And if we can address those musts, oughts, and shoulds, then we can change our belief. So someone in the second example I gave about the panic attack can say something like, I must never feel like that. So you can change that to, sometimes I do feel like that. Or, he ought to ring me, to change that belief to, sometimes he doesn't ring. And she should never do that, change that belief to, sometimes she might do that. Or, they should never cut me up on the road, change the belief to, sometimes they will, because there's always someone who'll do that. Or, whatever the activating event is, the consequence, if it's an undesirable one, will be being caused by a belief, a fixed belief. And the more fixed one is, the more you'll suffer. If you can, what the Buddhists say, bend like the willow in the wind, the more we bend, the more our beliefs can bend. And if we bend, we're not brittle. And if we're not brittle, we don't suffer. We just bend with it. And we, as the hippies would say, we go with the flow. So the more fluid and flexible our beliefs are, the less we suffer. So that when there is an activating event, and if you live in the world, there'll always be an activating event to upset you. If you don't want the consequence of being upset, all you have to do is change your belief. Now this is very important in terms of CBT, because it means that if you can change your beliefs and address any negative thoughts, or what Ellis would have called irrational beliefs, then you're well on your way to changing the consequences of undesirable feelings, or panic attacks, or anything that you don't want. If you can look at your beliefs and alter those in a way that changes the way you interpret what's going on for you, then you're well on the way to living a more peaceful life. So you could take it in the final example, which follows on from video number 1. If you're activating event was, I shouldn't be on an NHS waiting list waiting for a CBT practitioner. Well, that's fine, maybe you shouldn't, but you are. So unless you pay for it privately, you'll have to change your belief to, I'm going to be on a CBT waiting list for a long, long time. So what can I do about that? I can either buy a book, or I can buy a private CBT practitioner, or I can look at my own beliefs and try and change them and say, do I need to buy a book? Do I need to buy a private practitioner? Or can I start to look at my own beliefs? Because that's all you'd be doing anyway if you pay someone £100 an hour to tell you to look at your beliefs. So you might not need to do that. In which case, the consequence goes away. You start to change your beliefs, you become more flexible as a person. You might even find that your blood pressure goes down. You might even find that your need to have a drink to take away any stress, or smoke something to take away the stress, maybe that will disappear if you examine your beliefs, because you might not even need CBT therapy for that. The answers in themselves are within you. So thanks for watching again. I'll see you next time.